Are you about to go get a leopard gecko for your very first pet reptile? Well, don't. Get this instead. This is a gargoyle gecko, the best pet reptile in the world. Stick around, I'll tell you why. The number one reason, and this is a big one, why gargoyle geckos are better than leopard geckos is that leopard geckos come from the desert. So that means that they are going to require higher heat. So they need about a basking spot of around 90 to 95 degrees. They need a thermal gradient of that 95 in the super hot area all the way down to about 80 degrees on the cool side of their tank. And sometimes that's a little bit hard for people who are just getting started out with geckos, especially if you're giving your gecko to a kid, to really kind of nail down, and you don't want to have to worry about any kind of malfunctions when it comes to either a under the tank heating element, which some people use for leopard geckos, or a heat bulb for the hot spot. So just in general, it's just easier with gargoyle geckos. There's no heating element on any of my tanks. All there are LED lights, very safe, very energy efficient, and they just need a day and night cycle. Now, leopard geckos also need that day and night cycle, but they need that heat instead. So just given that they need extra, I give this one to the gargoyle. So when putting this video together in post, I realized I forgot something really important. Leopard geckos and gargoyle geckos both have the ability to drop their tail, but gargoyles are better geckos in my opinion because when you look at leopard geckos and when they drop their tail, it regrows back into this bulbous, weird looking kind of blob. And if you have an animal that you bought because it's a really pretty morph or just a pretty gecko to interact with, and then unfortunately it drops its tail, which can happen, and it regrows back this nasty tail, unfortunately you're stuck with it. For the rest of the gecko's life, it's going to have that tail. Now, with gargoyle geckos, they can also drop their tail, and hopefully that doesn't happen. You don't want either species to drop their tail. But if it does, it regrows back, and it looks like the original. Maybe not 100%, but it looks very, very, very similar than the original tail. It does not make the gecko look any less desirable. Actually, I've even seen some geckos where they drop their tail and when it regrows back, it has even more color on it. So that's kind of cool. Now, don't, go and take your geckos and make their tail drop off to get more color on it. I'm not saying that. But it's just another reason why gargoyles are such a cool gecko. The second reason why gargoyle geckos are better is that they require less bugs. Now, I say less bugs because I still think that gargoyle geckos need insects in their diet. The nice thing is that with gargoyle geckos, you can feed them a powder diet with insects in them. So hypothetically, if you really wanted, just a pet gecko that didn't need any insects, you never had to touch any of those creepy crawly bugs, then a gargoyle gecko would fit the bill because you could feed them Pangea or Rapace or any of the other brands as long as it has insects in it. Now, I still recommend that you feed your gargoyle gecko maybe bugs once a week or once every other week. It's really good enrichment. Watch some of my other videos. You'll see a lot of the benefits of what bugs can do. But with leopard geckos, they're strictly insectivores. There is no powdered diet. You have to go to the store or breed your own insects. So that's typically crickets, roaches, mealworms. You've got to give them a varied diet of different bugs. So if you're not okay buying bugs on a weekly basis, feeding bugs to your gecko, then leopard geckos are not the best choice. Gargoyles win that round too. Reason number 3 is handling. They are easier to handle. What's nice about gargoyle geckos, as you can see, is I am barely holding this gecko and it's stuck to me. So it's using its little pads with lamellae, which are the little hairs that actually cling to different surfaces, including my skin. What's nice about handling these geckos, unlike leopard geckos, is that they will hold on to you. And with them being an arboreal species, they're really, really good at it. My gecko here, she just crawls all over me, and I don't have to worry about dropping her. I don't have to worry about her having any kind of damage. I just want to kind of walk her around, but it's a better experience, especially for a new gecko keeper. When you're talking about leopard geckos are ground-dwelling species. They don't have the lamellae and the ability to climb up different surfaces. They really are really not great climbers in general, maybe up a rock or something, but you have to really be careful, hold on to them. I would stay closer to the ground, especially if you're not familiar how to kind of walk a gecko. So just in general, these guys are easier and more fun to handle. It's just less stress in my opinion. But again, they're both great to handle. This one just takes the cake. Hey, real quick, before I get into the next reason why gargoyles are better than leopard geckos, I just want to let you know, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Please, if you do like it, go hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. If you could share this video, that's great. And we're actually incentivizing you to do so. So right now, we're running a giveaway. So if you haven't watched the Gecko Cove Connection, my podcast, I'm interviewing some amazing gargoyle breeders. Really informational, really a lot of fun. So go check that out. The third episode was with Firehouse Geckos LLC. And he was so nice. Darren's the best. He actually offered my viewers, if we can get to 500 subscribers, he's going to give away a gorgeous red striped gargoyle gecko. Not just any gargoyle gecko. I mean, this thing is going to be a fantastic adult. So don't miss out. How you can enter is just go watch that video. Then what I need you to do is subscribe to this channel and share that video on either Facebook or Instagram. Then you need to tag, and this is really important, tag both of us in that post. We don't know that you've actually posted it until you tag both of us. If you do those three things, you're in for the gecko. It's free. All you have to do is pay shipping. So back to the reasons why gargoyles are such a great pet. The fourth reason, and this is a really fun one for me, why I like gargoyle geckos and other New Caledonia species better than leopard geckos is that when you're going to have geckos, typically they're kind of like potato chips. You want more than one. And so with that, typically the next step for most people is after you get a pair, you start thinking about, ooh, could I breed these geckos? And with leopard geckos, now they're relatively easy to breed, don't get me wrong, but you have to think about a little bit more than just producing eggs because leopard geckos need some kind of incubation. So you can go out and buy an incubator for a few $100, or you could try to do a DIY one. But to me, that's just extra work that you have to think about, just another expense in this hobby. Where with gargoyle geckos, I've got eggs here, which I'm incubating at room temperature. I literally just put them up on top of this enclosure here and let them go. They hatch in about 90 to 100 days, and I don't have any other special equipment. You put them just in the little cup with some media to keep them moist, and they're good to go. It can't get much simpler than that. I just am saying, both geckos are great species, but gargoyles, they just had that edge. And the fifth and final reason why gargoyle geckos are better is that they're a little bit more unique, which means that when your friends or anybody who you can convince to come talk to you about your reptiles comes into your reptile room, for the most part, they're going to see these little tiny kind of alligator-looking things and kind of wonder what those are. They're not going to be able to see them in every single big box store or, there are certain reptiles, and leopard geckos are definitely one, where they are so popular and they're so everywhere. It's not really impressive to see them. And that's not a reason not to get them. But to me, having a gargoyle gecko is kind of that wow factor still. Plus, not only do they have that wow factor, but let's talk a little bit about the psychology of this. So whether it's a reptile that you're choosing to buy or anything else where you put value into it, unfortunately, it's just human nature to value things that cost more money, but also that are a little bit more rare and unique. And gargoyles, you don't see them at big box stores. You don't see them all over expos. And that doesn't mean that leopard geckos are bad because they're so prevalent, right? But what it means is that if you're deciding between buying a leopard gecko and buying a gargoyle gecko, you are psychologically, most people are going to take care of a gargoyle gecko long term. Typically, the people that are going to actually choose to watch this video and do the research are going to not impulse buy this animal. They're going to set it up in a better enclosure, and they're going to just keep it for the long term. Now, could you do all of those things with a leopard gecko? Absolutely. And I hope if you do have a leopard gecko, or if you're looking to buy one and you do decide they're the one for you, that you take your time, that you do your research, that you keep them for the long haul. But unfortunately, because they are so inexpensive, because they're so easy to impulse buy, there are plenty of people that buy them, set them up in improper enclosures, and they end up in rescues or being neglected, and that's just not fair to the animal. And this happens with any species that gets way too popular. Gargoyles are not there yet. Gargoyles still cost a few $100s to buy, even the most base level gargoyle gecko. Maybe you can pick one up for like 120, 150 bucks starting out. Where with a leopard gecko, again, you can start picking up a leopard gecko for about 30, 40 bucks. Now, I still think that the initial cost for the setup for a gargoyle is a little bit less, but they're pretty comparable. So because of that, a gargoyle gecko, to me, if you're really deciding between one or the other, is a better choice for most beginners, because you're going to hopefully enjoy that animal for longer, keep interest in it longer, and you'll have psychology to back that up. All right, so those were my top 5 reasons why gargoyle geckos are a better pet than leopard geckos. If you agree with me, fantastic. Hit that like and subscribe button and go buy yourself a gargoyle gecko. If you disagree with me, leave me a comment. Let me know why you think I'm wrong. Either way, we're having a lot of fun here. So thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate everyone that's been giving me a ton of support here on this channel. So thank you again. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time on Gecko Cove. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and want to encourage me to make more gargoyle gecko content, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, share this with a friend, and maybe check out one of the videos right over there. I'll see you next time on Gecko Cove.